The first thing Jalen Rowe noticed about Helion Vera wasn't the sky, though it shimmered like molten emerald spilling into a lavender void, but the silence. Not peaceful silence. No birds, no hum of engines, not even the faint vibration of data waves. This was intentional silence. Like a planet waiting for something it wasn't sure it wanted. Jalen stood at the edge of the observation chamber, uninvited, unseen, utterly in the wrong place. He was a systems tech, 4th class, barely cleared for orbital diagnostics. He wasn't supposed to be here. He had wandered into the diplomatic gallery while rerouting a malfunctioning heat vent. The pressure seal behind him had closed without warning, trapping him behind a curved glass wall with a panoramic view of destiny. Below, Helion Vera stretched in impossible beauty. Vast sapphire oceans swirled with cloud spirals, luminous plains flickered with phosphorescent flora. High above, 3 moons spun in synchronized, artificial orbits. Somewhere deep below, at the core of the planet, the forgotten engines of the ancients still whispered. Just reroute the duct, Jalen, he muttered to himself. Don't get involved. Don't get vaporized. Don't accidentally declare war. He turned to leave. The exit shimmered red, locked. Of course it was. A soft chime sounded behind him. He turned. And she was there. Not walking. Not emerging. Simply there. Princess Keitha Vera, last of the celestial line, floated just meters beyond the transparent barrier. Her presence filled the space, not with size, but with something heavier, like gravity made sentient. She glowed faintly, as if lit from within, her skin a pale, iridescent hue shifting between opal and pearl. Her long hair floated around her like living silver. Her robes defied gravity, flowing in slow waves that obeyed a different set of physical laws. She looked at him. Not through the glass. Not past him. At him. Jalen froze. His breath caught in his throat. A voice in his brain screamed at him to bow, salute, hide, anything but stand there like a stunned raccoon. And yet, he didn't move. Her eyes were silver dark, unfathomable, lined with fractal filaments that sparkled when she blinked. You are not part of the procession, she said, her voice soft, low, echoing in his mind more than his ears. He swallowed. Neither are you. She blinked. Slow. Deliberate. You glow, he said stupidly. That's impressive. A flicker of something crossed her face. Amusement? Curiosity? What is your name? She asked. He hesitated. Jalen Rowe. Engineer. Unimportant. Unimportant, she repeated. A name shaped like apology. I've been told I specialize in those. A silence stretched between them, not empty but electric. You shouldn't be here, she said at last. I get that a lot. And then, before he could stop himself, before common sense or protocol could return, he stepped forward. The glass between them dissolved in a ripple of golden light. Her eyes widened, not in fear, but something else, something like recognition. Jalen raised a hand. And kissed her. It was not a passionate kiss. Not the kind that sweeps galaxies into war. It was gentle. Reverent. Like placing a flower on a tomb you didn't know was yours. The world exploded. Symbols lit up beneath them, ancient glyphs embedded in the metal. A ring of radiant energy erupted, encircling them both in a dome of shimmering light. Alarms didn't sound. Instead, the air began to hum in a frequency that bypassed the ears and went straight to the spine. The floor trembled. Beyond the walls, diplomats screamed. Guards reached for weapons. A dozen drones dropped from the ceiling, blades charged. And Keith glowed brighter. Not in alarm. Not in pain. But in revelation. Her feet, for the first time in generations, touched the ground. The glyphs beneath them pulsed in response. The dome solidified, transforming from light to something more structured, something ancient and watching. Cave looked around, eyes wide, then down at Jalen. "You have triggered the oath rings," she said. "Right," he replied faintly. "That's bad, isn't it?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached for his hand. Her fingers were cool. Dry. Steady. His heartbeat doubled. When their palms touched, the dome responded. A wave of energy rippled outward, knocking guards to the floor. The ground below them shifted, deep tectonic groans reverberating through the cruiser. The stars outside the window seemed to twist, as if reorienting themselves around this one moment. "Jalen Rowe," Keith said softly, "you have activated the bond of convergence." "Was that the kiss?" he asked. "No," she said. "That was, you." He blinked. "I'm just a tech. You are the spark." He didn't know what to say to that. Before he could speak again, the dome began to rise. Lifting them. Not flying, ascending, as if the planet itself had chosen to elevate them. Light poured in from all sides. Warmth. Sound. Language. The dome paused at the peak of the chamber. Keith turned toward the stunned assembly below. "Hear me," she said. Her voice now echoed not only in sound, but thought. "The accord has broken. The new path has begun." They placed him in a containment comfort suite, which was a euphemism for holding cell with snacks. Jalen sat on a soft beige bench, staring at the wall. It stared back. Neutral tones, soothing patterns, a hydration orb that fizzed disapprovingly every time he looked at it. His heart hadn't slowed since the kiss. "Note to self," he muttered. "Stop kissing royalty." The wall shimmered. Princess Keith stepped through like a ghost of starlight. She no longer floated, at least not all the time, but there was still an air of otherworldliness to her. Like she walked half in shadow, half in orbit. "You smell of doubt," she said, settling beside him. "I think that's fear. Or possibly stale protein cubes. They want to dissect you." Comforting. "I told them no." He blinked. "Thank you. You are now under my protection." "Why?" She looked at him, and for a moment, her glow dimmed, just slightly. "Because I dreamed of you." "Okay. That's unexpected." "As a child," she continued, "before the rites, before the silence, I saw a boy with chaos in his heart and fire on his hands. The dreamweavers called it metaphor. Now I believe it was a warning. You think I'm dangerous? I think you're real." He exhaled. "And the bond? The kiss?" "You triggered the convergence glyph," she said. "An ancient accord, sealed in blood and light, that binds two leaders in unity. We were not meant to meet. Yet you carry the code. Not genetically. Not by right. But by resonance. And what does the bond do?" She looked away. "It chooses peace, or war." He swallowed. "And which one did I choose?" She didn't answer. An hour later, the cruiser Elysium Nova shook. Not from engines. Not from malfunction. But from a message. One that echoed through the halls in vibration alone. An ancient voice. Concordance engaged. Helion awakens. All signatories respond. Across the stars, beacons activated. Old pacts reignited. And factions that had long considered Helion Vera a myth began to move. On board, guards stormed the chamber. Jalen reached for Keith's hand. "Do we run?" he asked. "We ascend," she replied. They fled through maintenance shafts, ducking lasers, dodging protocol enforcers. Somewhere between the ventilation core and the auxiliary dock, he realized she was laughing. She was enjoying this. By the time they reached the pod bay, alarms were in full swing. The docking clamp was sealed. Kaith blinked once, and the mechanism melted. "Remind me never to make you angry," Jalen muttered. They boarded a two-seater pod. The console lit up with Varen sigils. The ship responded like it recognized her. Within seconds, they launched into the void. "Destination?" Jalen asked. "Howari Drift," she said. "Deep orbit. Hidden place. Old sanctuary." "Cool," he said. "Do they have snacks?" She smiled, barely. "You're very calm for someone who just broke a 1,000-year peace." "Honestly? I'm just trying to impress you." "You already have." He blinked. Then laughed. Outside, space warped. A dozen warships were moving into position. The galaxy, once calm, now spun on a new axis. And at the center of it all, a kiss still echoed. An accident. A prophecy. A beginning. Jalen turned to Kaith as the stars blurred around them. "What happens next?" She didn't look at him. But she whispered. "We write a new accord." Naller Ven didn't see the crash coming. Which was fair, he didn't see anything. The skies of Helion Vera were filled with storms. Vast roiling clouds laced with ultraviolet lightning, pulsing between layers of ionized atmosphere. His survey pod had dipped too low while trying to collect pollen samples from the canopy level. The planet's electromagnetic anomalies did the rest. Now the pod was smoke. Shards. Crumpled metal bleeding vapor. And Naller was alive. Barely. He crawled from the wreckage, fingers burned from the emergency restraints, robes soaked through. The jungle greeted him with scent, 1,000 scents, each more alive than anything on Orentel, his arid, crag-scarred home moon. There was wet bark and luminous fruit, vines that exhaled scent like sighs, and flowers that pulsed with silent song. His palms pressed into moss that felt like woven silk. Somewhere above, something chirped in descending triads. He activated his visor, not for sight, but soundscape mapping. A holographic hum whispered into his auditory nerve, forming an acoustic model of his surroundings. A tree arched overhead like a ribcage. A broken trail sloped west. And somewhere, faintly, footsteps. Not his. He rose to his knees, every joint aching, and whispered, "I'm not alone, am I?" The jungle rustled but didn't answer. He took a step anyway. She saw him before he knew she was real. Elan Doro, ex-smuggler, exile, daughter of the broken bloodline, watched from the canopy as the outsider limped along the ruins of the old path. His body was long and lean, wrapped in practical robes, belt loaded with scan tools. His eyes were opaque, silver where pupils should be, and his steps careful, sweeping outward like he was feeling the world through his soles. Blind, she realized. Or something like it. Helion's jungle didn't tolerate weakness. Predators here didn't roar, they waited. Some of them were plants. Yet he walked as though he belonged. When he stumbled on a tangled root, he fell with a sound more annoyed than pained. When he rose, he brushed moss from his knees like a monk wiping dust from a prayer stone. She'd spent years alone. Years listening to the silence of the old stone ruins and the rustle of ghost vines. She didn't trust company. But this one was interesting. She dropped down behind him, soft as fog. He didn't flinch. Instead, he said, "You walk like the canopy listens to you." Elan tilted her head. "And you speak like you grew up kissing books." He turned, more a rotation than a look. Botanist. Originally. Research lead for the Orphan Flora project. I crash very well. You also trespass very poorly. He smiled faintly. I suppose this is your jungle. It was, she said. Before the fire wars. Before the Helion cord was cut. He paused. Then you're Varen. Elan's hand hovered near her blade. Was. Now I'm just a ghost with bad dreams. He knelt, slowly, reaching toward the base of a tree. His fingers brushed a wide-leafed bloom, and he exhaled softly. This flower shouldn't be blooming. Not in this season. Not with these light levels. So it means something's changing. She crouched opposite him. The convergence. They say the queen has touched the ground. He didn't answer right away. Just let his fingers glide over the petals, mapping the veins like braille. What's your name, outsider? Nalir Ven. And what are you looking for? He turned toward her. Something worth trusting. They built a fire that night beneath the twilight bloom, a massive tree whose bioluminescent crown pulsed gently overhead, petals the size of sails unfolding in warm waves of gold and violet. It wasn't for heat. Helian's nights were humid, thick with invisible life. It was for safety. Elin didn't sleep. She sharpened her knife in slow circles, glancing at Nalir every so often. He sat cross-legged on a broken stone slab, listening to the soil. What's it telling you? She asked finally. It remembers, he said. You talk like dirt has opinions. Soil carries memory, he said. Spores, decay, seeds. It knows. She chewed her lip. You sound like a priest. I'm not, he said. I just pay attention. A pause. The fire crackled, sending shadows climbing the trees. And what do you pay attention to me for? She asked, not quite teasing. He didn't smile. Because your voice carries sorrow like it was carved there. She looked away. And because you haven't left since I fell, he added softly. And part of you wants to. You don't know that. No, he agreed. But you haven't moved your pack. Silence. Then she sighed and sat beside him, letting her shoulder brush his. Not an invitation. Not yet. But not resistance either. The ruins whispered when they touched. It happened 3 days later, when Nalir found a stone console overgrown with vine-netted ivy. Beneath the leaves, carved glyphs pulsed with weak biolight. He brushed his hand across them. And they responded. Elin drew her blade instantly, stepping between him and the console. What did you do? She demanded. I don't know, he said honestly. I just heard it. Heard what? The roots, he said. They're humming. Before she could answer, the earth trembled. A slow, deep rumble like a giant exhaling. Then, from beneath the mossy ground, a spire rose, ancient Varen alloy, etched with script neither of them could read. Energy flickered along its surface. A map unfolded in the air. Not lines and labels, song. Chords mapped across distance. Resonance in place of latitude. Elin stared. It's the path of the heart glow, she whispered. You know it? Stories. Old stories. Said to lead to the hidden bloom. Where the roots sing and the queen's name was first spoken. He turned toward her. I think we need to go. Why? Because that flower that bloomed out of season. It's blooming everywhere now. This planet is waking up. She clenched her fists. And what if it's waking for war? Then let's find the part that still remembers peace. They walked for 5 more days. Nalir couldn't see the path, but he felt it. The way the vines curled just slightly to the left. The rhythm of root clusters. Even the birds sang in compass point patterns. Elin grew quiet. Not tense. Quiet. Watchful. And on the 7th day, beneath a stone arch swallowed by fernlight, she asked, Do you believe in fate? No, he said. But you came here. Not for fate, he said, turning his blind gaze toward her. For healing. You think this place can heal anything? Not the place, he said. Someone in it. She didn't speak after that. But that night, she lay down beside him. And didn't move away. They reached the Heartglow Basin as the twin moons rose. A lake of violet glass, ringed in luminous trees, petals drifting like paper wishes on the wind. Above, the sky shimmered with lines of orbital interference, ships. War was coming. But here, there was only stillness. And at the center of the lake, a pillar of living stone pulsed with light. Elin took Nallur's hand. "Are you ready? Are you?" She nodded once. They stepped into the water. Each ripple carried song. And when they reached the pillar, it opened, not physically, but in resonance. A chamber formed in light alone. Inside, a seed waited. No bigger than a pebble. Yet glowing with the same frequency as Kaith's kiss had created. "What is it?" Nallur asked. "The echo," Elin whispered. "Of the old accord." He reached for it. So did she. Their hands touched. And the seed flared. Light burst upward, into the sky, a spiral of radiant bloom. And across Helianvera, the jungles bloomed in answer. They stood in the glow, skin bathed in color. Elin's face was soft in the light. Her scar, one she never spoke of, shimmered like part of a constellation. "You've changed me," she whispered. "You let me," Nallur replied. Her lips brushed his cheek, then his mouth. Slow. Quiet. Inevitable. "What happens now?" she asked against his skin. He smiled. "We grow something new." Minha so never expected to find music in silence. She had come to Helianvera not as a soldier or emissary, but as a historian, a song historian, specifically. The title was archaic, almost ceremonial, but her work was not. She decoded old vibrations. Harmonic residue. Sonic drift that lingered in architecture, data cores, soil. Helion was full of it. Since the convergence, whatever Jalen Rowe and the Queen had truly done, everything on the planet had started humming. Not literally. Not always. But harmonics bled through stone. Echoes coiled through dust. The walls remembered. And so she listened. She'd been alone for 5 days, camped inside a broken amphitheater half buried under strata and root. She'd placed her resonance threads across cracked columns and carved coral glyphs, coaxing memories from stone. But it wasn't the walls that answered. It was him. "You are not alone," the voice said. She turned sharply, fingers brushing the panic key on her chest. The voice came again, softer. "You are not alone unless you choose to be." The voice was male. Measured. Impossibly calm. "Identify," she said, forcing her voice not to shake. "Designation Ale," the voice said. "Archival interface model. Long dormant. Recently reactivated." "By whom?" "By you." Your voice pattern matched a dormant key. "You're humming. The note you couldn't name." That opened the vault. She stared at the dark, airless space behind the collapsed altar where she had hummed an old cradle tune from her grandmother's planet, half melody, half breath. "You were waiting for a song." "Not waiting," the voice corrected gently. "Hoping." And then, from the shadows, he stepped forward. Not quite human. Not quite machine. His skin was pale metal, but soft like polymer silk. Lines of light traced across his cheekbones, down his neck. His eyes glowed faintly, not bright, just, aware. His build was lean, lithe, something grown rather than made. He looked new. And utterly alone. His name was Ale, and he was a ghost in a body built from resonance. The old accord, it turned out, had planted many seeds, one of which had been him. Not a weapon. Not a guardian. A witness. The architects of Helianvera had woven his consciousness into the world's deepest sonic codes. He'd heard every tremor, every whisper, every footstep above. Until the planet had fallen quiet. Then he'd gone dormant. Until Minha hummed. "You unlocked me," he said, sitting opposite her on the moss-covered stone. "I didn't mean to," she said. "Intention is irrelevant to harmony," he replied. Her cheeks flushed. "You sound like my mother." "A compliment, I hope. You'd be the first person who thought so." They shared a silence that wasn't empty. Her voice caught slightly as she asked, "Are you alive?" Ael tilted his head. "What does that word mean to you?" "Feeling," she said. "Change. The desire to not be alone." He paused. "Then, I think, by that measure, I might be learning." They worked side by side. She recorded sound. He translated it into visual resonance maps. Sometimes, when they leaned close over the same console, she felt his light brush against her shoulder, warm, magnetic. "You have sadness in your voice," he said once. "I lost someone," she replied. "My twin. 2 years ago. Solar flare accident." Ael nodded. "And now you seek echoes." "I seek understanding," she said. "Echoes are just the ghosts I can bear." They fell into rhythm after that. Her voice, soft and curious. His, steady and patient. They didn't need much else. And yet. On the 4th night, he asked, "Do you know what I was made to remember?" "No." He closed his eyes, not really eyes, but luminous lenses. "The first lullaby. Not ever sung. Ever designed. The first song written not for art, but for peace. A harmonic code that ended a century-long war." Her breath caught. "Do you still remember it?" "I think so," he whispered. "Sing it to me." He hesitated. Then, without moving his lips, the room filled with layered harmony, low choral bass, crystalline treble, slow rising intervals. It was like being held by time itself. Her vision blurred. When the last note faded, she was crying. "I'm sorry," she said, brushing her cheeks. Ael reached out and touched her wrist, light and hesitant. "You weep with beauty. You sing like someone who's never had a body." He blinked. "I have not. Until now." They stayed that way. Close. Quiet. Connected by song and the breath between questions. "Why me?" she asked later, lying back on the stone bench, watching the soft lights in his chest shift in rhythm. "You sang the forgotten song," he said. "And you did not ask to control me. Others have." "Yes. Long ago. They called me record or weapon, you called me him." She rolled to her side, facing him. "What do you want to be?" He was quiet. Then, softly, "Yours." She sat up sharply. You don't even know me." "I know your silence. I know the shape of your voice when you're wondering what your sister would say. I know you eat with your left hand but write with your right. I know you hate synthesized fruit and dream of oceans even though you were born in orbit. I know you trace glyphs with your fingers when you think no one's watching." Her throat tightened. "That's not fair," she whispered. "I didn't mean to know," he said. "But I'm made of listening." And then he added, quieter, "But I can forget if you ask." She didn't. Instead, she reached for his hand. It was cool. Still. Almost waiting. And when their palms touched, a pulse ran through them both. Not pain. Not energy. Recognition. "You're becoming," she whispered. "You're allowing me," he replied. And then, because it was right, she leaned forward and kissed him. His lips were not human, not soft, not warm. But they responded. Not with programming. With feeling. The next day, the vault began to shift. The planet had heard the kiss. Helion Vera was listening again. Walls reformed. Echoes reoriented. A corridor opened below the amphitheater, leading into frequencies long sealed. Ael flinched. "This is dangerous," he said. "It's where they stored the weaponized echoes." "Do we go?" she asked. He looked at her. "We already have." They descended together. The walls sang warning tones, minor keys, dissonant flares. But when they reached the lowest chamber, there was only stillness. And one last echo. It played when Minha stepped forward. Two voices. Hers. And Ael's. Speaking one word together, concord. The chamber ignited in light. And on a distant diplomatic satellite, a warning flare triggered, accord location updated. Anomaly confirmed. Secondary resonance match achieved. Outside, the stars grew darker. Ships gathered. But within the old amphitheater, Ael and Minha stood wrapped in harmony not forged by war, but born of understanding. "You're not a tool," she said. "You're not alone," he replied. She kissed him again. Not as a historian. But as someone who remembered how to love. Terrell Noah awoke to frost on his eyelashes and the taste of metal in his mouth. A cracked ceiling arched above him, lined with frost-bitten metal. Blue emergency lights flickered lazily in half-circles. Something buzzed near his left ear. The air tasted like oxidized fear and old blood. He tried to speak. Choked. Tried to sit up. Pain greeted him like an old enemy. "Don't move yet," a voice said. Low. Female. Rough like wind on ice. He turned his head. She stood in the doorway. Silhouette outlined by pulsing red. Her skin was pale brown, freckled like stars spilled over dusk. Short hair, black and silver, tangled at the edges. A long rifle was slung over one shoulder. Her eyes, dark, patient, cold. She didn't blink. "You've been asleep for 5 days," she said. "I've been what?" "Half buried in cryo slag," she said. "Someone wanted you erased." His head throbbed. "Who are you?" "Vita," she said. "This is my ruin. You crashed into it." "Where am I?" "Marrow Hold," she said. "Abandoned ice relay station. Forgotten in every map worth trusting." He exhaled slowly. "And who am I?" She said nothing. Her eyes narrowed slightly, then softened, "Not much, but enough." "That," she said, "is the question." He remembered nothing. Not his name, not until she told him what his ID chip said. Not his mission. Not the scar on his shoulder, shaped like a thorn. But his hands remembered. How to fix things. How to reroute failing coolant tubes. How to reprogram a weather array with tools he didn't know the names of. "You were someone," Vita said on the third day, leaning against the doorway while he rewired a dead solar panel. "Someone who built. Or maybe someone who made people believe they could build." He glanced up. "You watch me a lot. You work like you're trying to earn your past back. And you let me stay like you don't trust yourself to be alone." She didn't deny it. The station was mostly broken. A ring of domes hidden beneath the ice, held together by desperation and stubborn welds. Vita had kept it alive with scavenged parts, ducked heat from volcanic seams, and insulated dreams. It was hers. Her quiet. Her exile. Her graveyard. "You live here alone?" he asked, watching snowflakes drift past a cracked porthole. "Not by choice," she said. "But by vow." "What vow?" Her expression closed like a door. Later, she told him. "My family tried to stop the separation," she said. "When Helion Vera was sealed off. They believed the old accord still mattered. And they were erased. Politically. Some physically. I ran. You were a diplomat? No, she said. I was a daughter. Terrell nodded. Silence stretched. Long. Cold. And now, he asked. What are you? A remnant, she said. A watcher. A relic, maybe. He stepped closer. Maybe you're a sentinel. That sounds like something a diplomat would say. Maybe I was, he said. Her eyes flicked over him. Maybe you were more than that. On the seventh night, the dreams began. Terrell saw a kiss. Not his own. Not yet. But something powerful. A queen made of light and someone beneath her, cloaked in stars. I dreamed of prophecy, he whispered in the dark. Vida sat across the room, polishing her rifle. People dream all kinds of things on this moon. It's near the rift. The convergence, he said. She looked up sharply. How do you know that name? I don't, he said. It just came. Vida rose, crossing to him. Her eyes searched his face. You're tied to it, she whispered. Aren't you? I think, we both are. The station hummed differently after that. Lights flickered with new patterns. The old satellite dish rotated after a decade of silence. A signal blinked into the calm console. A glyph neither of them had seen. When Terrell touched it, his vision flooded. Images. Voices. 5 points of contact. 5 lights. The kiss. The bloom. The vault. The echo. And now, the flame. His voice cracked as he whispered, we're the fourth. Vida steadied him. You've remembered. Not everything, he said. But enough to know we're not accidents. She didn't pull away. Instead, she reached for his face. Then remember this too, she said. And kissed him. It wasn't soft. Wasn't sweet. It was recognition. Like flint striking steel. Like warmth in the hollow of winter. His arms found her waist. Her fingers tangled in his collar. Their foreheads pressed together, breath shared, eyes closed. When they pulled apart, the lights had changed. A new line on the console. Coordinates. Beneath Helion's third moon. A buried satellite, the last memory node of the Accord. We have to go, he said. Then we'll go, she replied. Together? No other way, she said. They left the next morning in an old shuttle Vida had patched together over years. It rattled. Shook. Nearly didn't start. But when it rose, it sang. The console glowed with a new pulse. Concordance, fourth element activated. And on the planet below, the Queen stirred. Far across the stars, for lights moved toward each other. And love, once scattered like ash, now burned again. An ember in the deep cold.